Where do you think you and Pat stand in history and just in terms of linebacker duos?
I'd be lying if I wouldn't say the best. We honestly committed ourselves to the game, to our team, to one another. It didn't matter who got the tackle or, who was making the call or whatever it may be. If he did it, I did it. If I did it, he did it. And I think that's what showed and made us a great group to play with.
Navarro Bowman retired now from the San Francisco 49ers. Patrick Willis surprisingly retired a few years ago. Bowman believes the best teammates at the linebacker position in NFL history. So that's the inspiration for today's draft. We've been taking our ideas from other sports. Today we're taking our idea from football. So Chris Simms, the best teammates ever to play at the same position. Best at the same position who were teammates. You know what? They know who we mean.
We got it.
Go ahead, call the coin toss.
Let's go tails here.
And it's rigged.
Yeah.
And it's rigged. It's back to being rigged. All right, go ahead. Go ahead. And this is what you're excited today, right? Because you were so bad yesterday, and your dad called you out earlier, and he was not joking around, so the pressure is on you to deliver today.
Thank you very much. I don't give a damn what you say or what my dad say, so I'm not going to be forcing this. Okay, I'm going to do one that's a little weird here right off the bat. But
Shocker.
I think it's hard to defend this. I'm going to say Joe Montana and Steve Young right off the bat. I mean, I know they weren't playing on the field at the same time, but damn, how many times can we really look at an NFL roster and go, there was two Hall of Fame quarterbacks on the same roster at the same time? I know it's not like sexy and they weren't on the field like a Patrick Willis or Navarro Bowman, but regardless, I have to look at that. The quarterback position, of course, is the marquee position of the sport. You have to have somebody competent and good at that position to be a successful team. And these two guys were a big part of why the 49ers were relevant for, 16, 17 years in a row, because it went Montana right into Steve Young, and Steve Young took over, and they went to NFC Championship games and, of course, won a Super Bowl in 94. So, yeah, I'm going to throw them into the mix here, even though it's kind of against the spirit of the rule.
No, it's
here.
not. No, it's
But
not.
I know.
No, it's not.
I know. I'm going with it. Good.
No.
You
Listen.
had it too.
You're in the right church, but your butt is planted in the wrong pew, Christopher Davidsons. I am stunned. And there is one certain person out there who may be chugging a beer and or a scotch right now.
I knew you were going to say that.
Who is very disappointed. I mean, look at it. I don't even need to cross-examine you on this. I was thinking we could do a little roll. This isn't hard. There's not many steps of logic in this. Surely you agree that Brett Favre was a better quarterback than Steve Young, right?
Yeah, I do.
We can agree with that.
Yes, I do.
And you've said many times Aaron Rodgers, in your view, is the greatest player in the history of the game.
Yes,
have you not?
I do.
Then how do you not pick Favre and Rodgers?
I guess because I just felt like, the career's not over for Rodgers yet.
So
I don't
what?
know. And maybe you're right.
What are you going to do, get worse?
Okay, so maybe I made a mistake there. Okay,
Yes, you
I don't
did.
know. My
Phil's
duo has more Super
Phil's
Bowls.
on the line. We have Phil back on the line. No, we don't. But he may be calling back in.
Yes.
All right, go ahead with round two. You've already lost. Let's see if you can dig your way out.
Oh, that was your pick? Favre,
Yeah, it's my pick. Favre, that was my pick. Favre and Rodgers.
Okay, I like how you just came out and said that. Okay, I'm going to do, I don't know which one to do here. You know what?
You were so proud of yourself for Montana Young, and you're so rattled now that you should have gone Favre and Rodgers. You don't know what you're going to do.
Well, there's like too many options here with this one. But okay, I'm going to go with I'm going to go to the 70s, all right? I'm going to go with Swan and Stallworth, all right? There's one of the best wide receiver duos in the history of the NFL. I got to throw them into the mix here. I mean, Lynn Swan did win a Super Bowl MVP with some of those unbelievable catches he had. I believe that was Super Bowl 10 against the Dallas Cowboys. Those, the epic, ball bounces in the air. He catches it that way. Of course, John Stallworth had so many big moments in Super Bowl 13 and 14 where he made huge plays to help the Steelers beat, the Cowboys that second time. And of course, the big bombs to help beat the Rams in Super Bowl 14. So I think that's I think it's the best duo at wide receiver in the history of the sport, ultimately. And, of course, that was a special team that won 4 Super Bowls.
Once again, right church, wrong pew. Christopher, I have 2 questions for you.
Yes.
Who would you rather have on your team, Randy Moss or Lynn Swan?
Oh, I would rather have Randy Moss.
Who would you rather have on your team, Chris Carter or John Stallworth?
Oh, Okay, you're right. I'd probably go Chris Carter. Okay.
All right, Randy Moss, Chris Carter, round 2. All right. Phil is not. I hope Phil is not watching. Phil will be back in bed if he's watching this one. This is just a destruction, a dismantling. But Chris Carter, Randy Moss, lest there be any confusion, that's my second round. And these, from the get-go, they were incredible. When Moss was a rookie, remember, he and Carter worked together. They also had Jake Reed for good measure. They were spectacular. Now, they only played together for a few years, but those few years they were together, anyone could have been quarterback. Just throw the ball up there, and Randy Moss is going to go get it. And Chris Carter's running wide open because they're so afraid of getting beat by Randy Moss. What a combination that they had, and it's a shame they never made it to a Super Bowl. That's the only thing that Stallworth and Swan have on them, that they made it to Super Bowls and won them. But it wasn't because of Swan and Stallworth the Steelers won those Super Bowls. It was because of their defense and because of their running game, at least the first two. So
yeah, well,
Carter
I
and
mentioned
Moss,
the second two, and they won. They won Super Bowls because of what they did in the second two. Their legacy is every bit as big as Carter and Moss there, okay? I will say that.
I'd still take Carter and Moss over Stallworth and Swan
I like
any day.
Super Bowls, okay? That's what I like. My group's got Super Bowls. Your group doesn't so much. So, okay, I'm more of the team kind of guy. You're kind of Antonio Brown. You're Mr. Big Chest. I'm the team kind of guy. You know, that's just the way it is. You show up late for work every now and then and do things like that. I don't. I get there. You shut up for work. You shut up late once this year. Remember, I'm just trying
Not for TV.
No, not for TV, but it was for work nonetheless. Okay. Gosh, this is not the day to go first, I guess, because you're just going to – well, what am I going to come up with here that you're going to crap on once again?
I don't know. We'll find out.
Okay.
What do you got?
I'm going with the best safety duo, I think, in the history of the NFL, okay? And that's Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor. I'm going to throw them out there into this mix right here. I don't know if there was ever a time in the history of the NFL where I could say one team had the best free safety in football and the best strong safety in football in the same secondary in the prime of their career playing. Now, I think it's one that's not looked at that way yet, but I think in revisionist history 20 years from now, when people talk about the Seattle Seahawks, they're going to talk about those two players and go, wow, they were difference-making type of guys. This Seattle defense and scheme does not exist without the type of talents that Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor brought to the table and first kind of thrusted this scheme onto the scene. I mean, Cam Chancellor, a strong safety who hits like a linebacker, can play in the box, but yet could cover tight ends and, play in space like he was a free safety. And then Earl Thomas was a human missile in the back end. I mean, one of the most explosive safeties ever, ball hawking, great range, will throw his body around. One of my favorite phrases with Earl Thomas, it applies. He's got a rocket up his butt as far as that's concerned. So, yeah, I'm putting them in that category right now.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Now, look, I don't know that they qualify for inclusion on this list. I can't think of a better combination of safeties at the same time than Chancellor and Thomas. But I'm not going to one-up you on this one. Okay. I'm going to one-up Bowman and Willis on this one. Yeah. If Bowman thinks that he and Willis were the best two teammates at linebacker of all time, I have to throw the challenge flag, and I have to rewind to an era before either of those guys were born in the 70s. You talked about the Steelers earlier on the offensive side of the ball. The two Jacks, Jack Ham and Jack Lambert, epitomized defensive football in the 1970s. Jack Ham was more quiet. Lambert had that intimidating presence with the giant shoulder pads and the missing teeth, and he would knock a kicker down. Or no, he didn't knock the kicker down. It was Cliff Harris in Super Bowl X that congratulated the kicker
for missing
a field goal.
Right.
And that's one of the most memorable moments of any football game I've ever watched in my life, when Jack Lambert grabs Cliff Harris and throws him to the ground. That's the kind of intimidator Lambert was. They were the core of that defense, even though the defensive line, every level of that defense was great. There was something about those linebackers. Yeah. And Jack Ham and Jack Lambert, the best teammate combination at linebacker in NFL history.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that one. I mean, it certainly is special. They were on my list as well. I didn't want to pick another Steelers, combination there, so that's kind of where I backed off of it. But yeah, this was a tough one. And you know what? My problem is with some of these times, I just go off the top of my head. I love football and I got a pretty good knowledge of history. And this is where, I could have maybe researched a little harder to maybe shut you up a little bit. But wait, did you have any other good ones on there? Like, I also thought about doing Bo Jackson and Marcus Allen. Even though they weren't really great together, they were still two great entities that were playing the same position on the same team. That was another one that was out there. Jerry Rice and Terrell Owens. You know, that was another one I thought about as well. But Jerry was so at the end of his career, I just didn't feel like it counted as much, so I didn't want to do it.
I didn't even. I mean, it didn't even stand out to me that they were ever teammates.
Right. I
It
know.
was so late in Rice's career and before Owens had really established himself. It's like Owens didn't establish himself until Rice was gone, right?
Road to the very end. He broke that single season, the single game catch record in Jerry Rice's last game as a 49er. That was kind of like hey, here's Terrell Owens. He's the new guy in town. But who else did you have on your list? Do you have anybody else there?
I had Dan Hampton and Richard Dent, even though Hampton was defensive tackle and defensive
that's
end.
where I was kind of iffy about those guys. Yeah.
Yeah. If we'd have gone another round, that would have been my next one. But I'll rest with my 3 rounds. And I was a little nervous today because you were very, very anxious to do this draft. You wanted to do it yesterday and you're ready to do it today. I had assumed you had actually gathered your thoughts. But no, you've been hoisted on your own petard once again. You've got Montana and Young, whereas I had Favre and Rodgers. You have Stallworth and Swan, whereas I have Carter and Moss. You went with Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor. I went with the 2 greatest linebackers, teammates of all time, Jack Ham and Jack Lambert. That's our draft for today.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.